Hi everyone, welcome to Growth Room Podcast, where we ask the questions people are afraid to ask and dive into real experiences, real expertise, and real journeys that inspire good. So today's episode is about career transition. We'll be exploring what it takes to transition from where you are now to where you want to be, the mindset, the preparation, and the real life decisions involved. Today, I'm joined by Damien Schreurs, a technology mentor, solopreneur, and host of the Macpreneur Podcast. Damien transitioned from a corporate career as a research and development engineer into building a successful solopreneur business powered by systems, automation, and intentional use of technology. I'm excited to explore his journey. So, Damien, welcome to Postron Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Many people think about transitioning careers but never act on it. What was the moment you realized you wanted to transition out of corporate life?
For me, it was a gradual transition in the sense that I already had the idea very early, even before I started working. It was at the university that I discovered entrepreneurship as a class. And also, my parents. My mother was an independent person, and so I already had a little bit of exposure to being your own boss and having your own business. However, I had started studies to become an engineer, and so it took me something like 20 years, maybe roughly 20 years to realize the dream of becoming my own boss. And um, a specific moment or a specific catalyst for me was the birth of my first daughter. When she was born in 2007, that's that's when it kind of crystallized that I wanted to offer her what I got from my childhood. So having two kinds of parents, a parent that has a stable job and a parent that has to that works for themselves. And so that's when I started brainstorming and more concretely laying out plans to one day start my own business.
So, like, you didn't quit immediately. You just started your business as a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. On top of that, I'm pretty risk averse. So, yeah, when it's my wife who actually pushed me
Wow.
at one point saying, you're talking a lot about starting your own business, but when will you do it? When will you do it? And so she she actually found not even my first client, but a small gig that I used and that was not paid for. It was totally a free pro bono. But yeah, she helped me actually put myself on the rail. So I did a kind of a mini consulting job, which went well and which I liked. And that pushed me to go here in Luxembourg to the administration and file the papers to actually be registered for having my own business and then incorporating the business and so on. Yeah.
So, what kind of preparation did you do before finally leaving your 9 to 5?
Sorry, I did not understand the question.
Okay. I meant, what kind of preparation did you do before finally leaving your 9 to 5?
Okay, yeah. So way before, yeah, when my daughter was born, what I did was I also was helping on the side a non-profit organization, and I helped them actually digitize and send a digital version of their newsletter. I was taking care of their website. So I was practicing a bunch of the side jobs that we need to do when we have our own business. And at the same time, it was a non-profit where we were sharing our knowledge. So I was offering IT training and consulting, and then I was also attending classes like yoga classes and stuff like that. And so I started to see what it meant to go to other people's houses and help them with their computers and so on. And so that was more the operational side of things for the preparation. For the financial preparation, I started putting money away on the side. So whatever extra money I had from my day job, I put it in a savings account with the idea that I might need actually that money at the beginning, because I may not be able to pay myself a full salary. And so, yeah, it was a little bit of financial preparation, but also operational preparation.
Now, career transitions often come with fear, financial uncertainty, identity shifts, and self doubt. Now, what fears came up for you during your journey?
I think the fear number one, and I think is the fear of most entrepreneurs, is not making enough money to sustain the business. I think that's when you start out,
Mm.
the statistics. So yeah, I forgot to say, I also read a bunch of books on entrepreneurship, and also had some magazines, and the statistics are not very good. very few very few entrepreneurs go beyond the second year or the fifth year, and a very, very, very small percentage reach the 10-year mark. So they are, in terms of job security, or being sure that you will be able to do what you like. But at the same time, I think that's also one thing that maybe distinguishes some solo entrepreneurs versus others, is this belief that whatever happens, I will find a way, I will find a solution, and if I need to pivot, I will do that. And so, yeah, I never feared not being able to find a solution, but I fear that I may run out of money, out of those savings that I had on the side. So I think that was the biggest fear.
Wow, wow. So it's more like it's the fear of failing rather, right?
Yes, for me it's really, yeah, it's fear of failure, and that's something when I became an entrepreneur, it became very much my identity. That the being running that business, being the business owner. If the business fails, I take it personally as I've failed.
Okay. Now, was there ever a time that you questioned your decision?
All the time, all the time. That's maybe that's maybe one of my weak points. That I have a lot of self doubt, and I always question every decision I make. It takes a lot of time for me to make a decision, and even when I make a decision, a few days later, I was like, was it a good decision? And so that's something I really have to learn to be more comfortable with my decision making process. Yeah, and there in my whole now life as an entrepreneur. So I started the business on the side in 2013, but I really went 100% full time on it 2016. So on one hand, it's more than 10 years that I've been running a business, but really 100% is going to be 10 years this year. I
Wow,
only remember one one bad decision that I made, that I really realized it was a bad decision, and that set me, yeah, that delayed a lot of positive things that happened afterwards. But yeah, so I doubt myself a lot, but I should not, because it's very rare when I make a very bad decision.
now, like you mentioned that you always question yourself, you had self doubt and all that. Now, what was the mindset that was keeping you going? Like, what was it?
What keeps me going is really the freedom, the lifestyle that I've achieved now. And I think twice I was at the almost going back to a part-time job rather than being full-time entrepreneur. Didn't went as I planned it. There one of the times was just before COVID, and then COVID hit, and it completely did the thing. But But for me, it's really, the idea of going back to a day job, or it's not really so much having a boss. I'm okay having a boss in the sense that now I'm 52, and even before I started my business, I was already pretty good at putting boundaries with my managers and achieving some kind of autonomy in my I'm not afraid of losing autonomy because I think I can win it back, but it's more the time freedom. It's really the idea that if one day, if I see in the future there will be an event at school with my daughters, or we want to do something with the family, that I can look at my calendar and I know I will block that day. I will not take clients, and I'm totally free to do whatever I want that day. And that's, I think, the main motivator today to continue that lifestyle.
You spoke about time and time flexibility. Now, how do you manage your time and energy without burning out?
Yeah, so I've discovered for a very long time already that I'm much more focused and productive in the morning, and so I'm not a. I used to be a very early morning person, but that was just a necessity in the sense that I was still working. I was still working for an employer, and to be able to work on your business while still working part-time, you need to find pockets of space, and especially with young kids. So for me, it was the early morning. So there was a phase in my life when I was working at 4:30 in the morning, doing a bunch of things, then go to work, and obviously in the evening I was completely shut. But now that I'm on my own, I still realize that the morning is sacred for me. And so this is when I do most of the brainstorming or working on new training programs, really the things that require a lot of mental load, that I tend to do in the morning. And then in the afternoon, and especially early afternoon, I know this is when I'm a little bit less sharp. And so this is where I will, for instance, once a week, I will do some shopping, and where I can order online, and then I can go to a pickup place and they put stuff in the boot of the car, and then I go back home. And I do that usually at 2 p.m. because I know that's not when I need to be super productive. And so I know as well that I have a second burst of energy starting 4 p.m. Yeah, so I then will do quite some work, and I will book, for instance, client calls, usually between the p.m. and 6 p.m. This is when I will do other client calls.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Now, curious, what systems or habits help you stay consistent?
So so I run systems. I could not function without systems. So I have systems for all my client facing work. I also have systems for my backups. I have standard operating procedures. I have reminders. I have set up a lot of automation. So I rely heavily on both web automation and local automations. And so for me, it's super important. For instance, on a local, on my Mac, on my computer, I have a tool called Hazel. And that tool, I don't know how many hundreds of renaming and filing rules I have. But as soon as a file hits either the downloads folder or is downloaded automatically from Gmail, because I have a web automation that automatically downloads PDFs, attached PDFs sent by email to a specific Google Drive folder, and Hazel watches that folder. And whenever files hit that folder, Hazel will look into the PDF, look at the name, look into the PDF, and automatically rename and file the thing at the proper place, so that I don't have to go around my hard drive or different folders to rename stuff. And then I have also a bunch of online automations that really help me reduce busy work like copy pasting stuff between tools and stuff like that. This is now handled automatically for me.
Wow, wow. Speaking of automation, I think I would love to learn that. Now,
What would you like to learn about in terms of automation?
I think how to ease workflows because currently I learned virtual assistant role, but I haven't implemented automation because I think it's more of demand presently. So if I'm going to learn automation, then it's going to be how to ease my workflow, make it faster.
Yeah, so on which kind of computer are you? Are you on a Windows PC or on a Mac, an Apple computer?
Windows.
Windows computer. Okay. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with automation tools on Windows. One thing, when we talk about automation, I think the best starting point is already text expansion. So if you need to write always the same kind of text, multi-paragraph text, you create a snippet, and there is a tool called Text Expander. It is not very expensive, it's actually very affordable, and it runs on Windows, it runs on Mac, it runs on some mobile devices as well. And with Text Expander, you can basically create a lot of predefined snippets of text and very quickly write them down just by enter, like in my case. So for when I do remote training for one of my clients, I send an email roughly 1 week before the training day and then 2 days before the training day. And every time it's roughly the same email, right? Same email message, but there might be some differences. Like the topic could be Excel or Word or PowerPoint, and maybe the date and time. So there are a few things that can change. However, with Text Expander, you can very easily configure like drop down menus. And so I just type a few letters, the whole email is written down for me, and then I just have to click and select a few things, and then boom, I can send the email. And it takes like seconds instead of minutes, or copy pasting from one place to another and stuff like that. So I would say that to start with automation, Text Expander is for me the best starting point.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Now, if you were starting your journey again, what will you do differently?
What I would do differently is really stick with what I liked to do best, and not take what seemed like a good revenue generator, but in the end was not really aligned with either my passion or my strength. And what I mean by that is I'm at the heart, I'm a teacher. I'm an instructor, and I really love teaching and being in front of a group of people. And so when I started EasyTech, I did that in the evening for very small classes on the topic of Apple, because I really like Apple products and services. And what happened is that rather than continue and try to find other avenues to teach, the people in the classroom were always asking me, Damien, do you know anyone who can help with my Mac, my iPhone, my iPad at home? And I saw kind of an opportunity, and I said, yes, I can do that as well. So I went in that direction, and that actually delayed the financial success that I reached, because in the end I realized this is not something that I like doing, even though I'm good at it. So you can be good at something, but in the end it's not because you're good at it, and it's not even because it could potentially generate revenue, that necessarily you should pursue it. And yes, so I think I would have declined that. Now, with what I know today, I would have declined these kind of opportunities, and I would have focused on trying to find more training customers.
Interesting. Now, what advice would you give to someone who wants to transition but feels stuck? And how does one realistically balance a full-time job while preparing for career transition?
So the step number one is make sure that there is no conflict of interest between what you do as your day job and what you want to do as an entrepreneur, because that can be problematic if it's the same industry or even the same kind of product or services that you are offering. Yeah, so that's number one. Assess, right? Is it something that I want to do, that I'm passionate about, and it will not cause any negative effects for my employer, my current employer? So that's number one. Assuming that there is no conflict of interest, then you have to actually look back at your contract. Does your contract state that you can or you cannot have a side business? In my case, the contract said I could not. So I had to go to human resources and actually ask for an exemption to my contract. And that exemption was actually renewed on a yearly basis. Every year they said, yes, you can continue having your side business. And they were actually telling me, if we see that your side business has a negative impact on your performance at work, we can revoke your right to have a side business. So that's number two. And then number three, I would say find something that you could do without, you would do even if you were not paid for. So do something that you really love, you're really passionate about, and because if you do something because it looks like you can make a lot of money there, but you're not really passionate about that, it will not last. And then the final thing is create yourself a runway of money, of potential revenue, not revenue, sorry, of savings. Create a runway, because there will be a time when you will not be able to generate enough money to cover all your expenses. So look at how much you need to spend every month, multiply that by 10, 12, 20, 18, which number is comfortable for you, and you say, this is the amount of money that I need to have in the bank before I pull the plug and I become fully independent. Yeah, that would be my advice.
So thank you so much, Damia, for sharing your journey and insight. I think I'm blessed with this conversation, and because it aligns what it really takes to navigate a career transition with intention and patience. Now, you highlighted something that I really like stood out for me. You said don't transit because you just had this idea that there's money in it, not like you are passionate about it, because when challenges comes, you will not be able to like withstand it, because first of all you're not passionate, you're only focused on the money. I think that's one thing that I think stood out for me, and I'm grateful you mentioned it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Is there something else you want to share with my audience? Maybe how they could reach out?
Yeah, I think especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, there's not been a better moment in time to really start your own business or to pursue the idea of having your own business. Even if you don't start a business per se right now, you can use large language models, so Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, and brainstorm ideas. You can also run a deep research and actually like compress month into days, just understanding the potential audience or the potential clients that you might have, or what would be the ideal client for you based on what you are passionate about, what your skills are. So really leverage artificial intelligence as much as possible, and you actually may have a more successful business than you imagine in a shorter amount of time.
Thank you so much. And is there like something else you want to share with my audience so they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I will give you. I think on my Podmatch profile, I have the LinkedIn address, so you can reuse that one, E2.